I was at the men's Rosary rally today in Knock. I would like to have gone to to Belfast for the Camino of the churches that they're doing as part of the Rosary festival in Belfast, but I just can't be everywhere, and I'm going to Medjugorje this week. And somebody asked me, "Oh, what video are you going to do today, Robert?" Well, I hadn't planned to do anything, but I had such a beautiful experience today. One thing that impacted me a lot when it comes to the Rosary. And I have to thank my kids for this. They said, "Daddy, can you go out and get us some popcorn? We want to do something here." I said, "Oh, okay." So anyway, I went to a certain shop. I won't say the shop. And I went to the checkout. And the man that is the cashier register, scanning the goods, and he has a rosary around his neck. So he has a rosary here. And he obviously has Asian features. And I said, "Well, look, are you from India?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Let me guess, you're from Kerala." And he said, "Yeah, how did you know I was from Kerala?" I said, "Is that a rosary you have here?" I said, "Yeah, I'm Catholic." I said, "Oh yeah." We struck up a conversation. You're definitely going to get me talking when you have a rosary around you. And again, for many people that don't understand this prayer, it isn't some mindless repetition of Hail Marys and Our Fathers. It's a deeply mystical prayer of our faith, the Catholic Church. It's a prayer of peace. I live here near where Father Patrick Payton was born, and he says, "The world of prayer is a world of peace." And at this moment in time, the world is not at prayer. It's at war. Or it's hurtling itself away from God. So anyway, this particular person, I won't mention his name, he gave a beautiful testimony and witness of his faith with the rosary. And I do think we should do more of this. Hopefully more men will learn. I've said this before. I find that Ireland has been incredibly enriched by Kerala Catholics that have come to Ireland. From the different traditions. I find them fascinating. I find their liturgy fascinating. Pope Benedict with Summorum Pontificum wanted to help the Novus Ordo return a bit to its roots, the reverence, with allowing the greater use of the traditional Latin Mass, because sometimes you go to Mass and a priest can't even be bothered to put on the alb, priestly dress. Just throw on a stole and, get a chalice and, a little bit of water and just put it's, the mystery and the sacredness of the Mass is gone. It's just, and we wonder why people don't go to Mass. Well, look, sure, we don't make an effort, we don't. I saw a bishop celebrating Mass and the priests with him there, each with a different stole. No preparation for the Holy Sacrifice, the Mass. You're there celebrating with a bishop, and you can't be bothered to dress as a priest. And they have the albs to do it. That's the sad thing. They have the vestments. I don't know why they can't be bothered. But anyway, again, I don't like criticizing the church. I don't like people say, "Oh, you're very negative. You were criticizing." Is to wake people up a little bit. Wake the church up. We have a beautiful church, beautiful rite. And the one thing about the Indian Catholics, the Kerala Catholics, the Syro-Malabar, Syro-Malankara Catholics, when you go to their divine liturgy, their ancient Syriac Mass, all of the priests are dressed properly for the Holy Sacrifice. Their altar is prepared. That the whole place is in adoration, is in prayer. Everybody is, it's a beautiful rite. Currently it's said in the language from that region, which I think they have something to teach us Catholics. We're there wondering, why are people don't believe? Why aren't people coming to Mass? Why is there such a crisis of faith? We don't pray. We do not pray. Indian Catholics pray with their kids. They teach them the faith. Indian teenagers, they go to conferences, Catholic talks and so forth. Prayer and the faith is brought into families. I know this because I talk to them. 2 years in a row, I've been in Knock when, they had this massive festival with Kerala Catholics there. And, I was highly impressed. And our Lord has sent a church to Ireland, 50,000 Kerala Catholics to Ireland, over 50,000, to teach, to help, to a mission to us. When one church, part of the church is weak, they come here. Some people view this as immigration as something very negative. I view it as very enriching, personally, if it's managed correctly. And they are incredible. They truly are incredible Catholics. And at the end of the day, we have to remember our faith is so that we have union with God. Union with God, friendship with God, personal relationship with Christ. We contemplate Christ and we act like Christ. The Beatitudes become our part of life. We love the other person as Christ loves that person. The love that we've received from Christ, we reflect it to the person beside us. That's how we should act as Catholics. That's how we should pray. You can't love Christ and then, when you contemplate Christ, keep contemplating Christ, you're constantly challenged to act like him. How did his disciples and his apostles act? He had many, 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 many disciples, and he challenged them and they changed and they acted in a different way. I've often spoken about the works of Maria Valtorta. Somebody on my Facebook page, they said dubious scribbles. They called them dubious scribbles. You're promoting dubious scribbles. I often find Maria Valtorta's detractors are people who have not read Maria Valtorta. But one thing about her work is Christ keeps captivating you to change, transform, change your mind, your will, your heart. He's calling you out to be him in this world. His kingdom are those who love him and act like him and live like him and think like him and pray like him. And in a world so divided, so caught up in wars, we are going to have a third world war. It will come very fast and very quickly, and it will be very dramatic for the world, and it will happen. It will happen, and people need to realize this. All of the powers, all of the major forces, are converging against this war. The strains are there. America is distracted with their presidential election, and Israel is doing whatever it likes, not taking into consideration the consequences of their actions. A war in Yemen, a war with Iran, a war with Lebanon, a war in Gaza. These all it takes is one wrong move. And you bring in other countries into this war. You bring China into this war. If you cut off Iranian oil supply, which mostly goes to China, you cause an energy crisis, an oil crisis in the Middle East, which destroys European economies, world economies, puts pressure on families. People don't realize how things can escalate. A stock market crash in the matter of hours, days. What? You look back in this video and you'll see, life was so nice. Yes, nice. Life was nice. But today is Saint Faustina Kowalska's feast day, 5th of October. Christ came to give us mercy, a time of mercy. We didn't use it. We have not used this era of mercy. The world's number one sacrament is abortion. There are more abortions in France than baptisms. There are more abortions in Ireland than Catholic weddings. It is the number one sacrament. Promoted, defended, because we have turned away from God. People think, oh, Robert, you're crazy, you're this, you're that. No, it's the truth. The world has turned away from God. The West has turned away from God. Ireland has turned away from God. In many ways, the church has turned away from its own mission, or it's been left confused by its own mission. But I honestly think the time will come when Christ will prune what is not bearing fruit in the church. And that time will soon come. I have a vine behind my house, and every year, without fail, this vine produced kilos and kilos of sweet fruit. Kilos and kilos of them. It used to make wine. And I was away for 5 weeks this year, and when I returned, the whole vine was covered in like a blight, a mold. And so the fruit wasn't coming this year. And at one stage, I had to realize there's going to be no fruit on this vine this year at all. So what do you do so that it, comes back next year? I pruned it right back. Then sprayed it with some fungicide, and hopefully it'll come back next year. There's no point leaving it there. Full of rot, decay, leaves everywhere, it looks unsightly. Is the church fulfilling its mission at this moment in time in the world? Are we fulfilling our mission as Catholics, as Christians? Are we united to Christ to be his light into the world? Or are we distracted, confused, divided? When I was in Knock today, I saw Catholics that I knew with Bishop Bellini. This is Bishop Williamson's bishop that he set up here in Ireland. And they all looked nice, and they all looked, they had seminarians there, and they were obviously doing their pilgrimage, one of the many traditional offshoots of the traditional movement. The devil has us well distracted. Our Lady called us for unity in the church. And yet, where that can't happen, even those that do believe are divided. Maria Itzo in Australia, she, as I said, we did an interview, and she was calling for giving us the unity prayer. It's sad what has happened, but those who do know, need to man up and lead. The church doesn't need a synodal process. It needs leaders to be other Christs, to teach us Christ, to lead us to Christ, to be men of Christ, to be men audacious enough to walk into the seventh mansion. To have that union, that nuptial union with God, and to give us Christ. Teach us, tell us, who is he? How is he? How does he sound like? What does he look? Teach us him. Transform, be that yeast in society. And yet we have such poor leadership in this area. And then we wonder why the society is where it is. Thousands and thousands and thousands of abortions, failed marriages, failed relationships, people with no hope, suicide after suicide. God Almighty, have mercy on us. Pray for the church. God bless you.